Oh wow, look who finally clocked in. Thank you, Garcelle, for showing up to work. Kyle doesn't have Sutton's back. I saw that today. I've been seeing it for years. Ding, ding, ding. Finally, someone says it. Now, can we get this train rolling? There must be hours of footage of Kyle casually shoving Sutton under the bus. Producers, do your job. Let's goo. Honestly, Kyle will throw anyone under the bus if it benefits her. No hesitation, no second thoughts. She's practically made a career out of it. But let's not act like this is some shocking revelation. After all these years, Garcelle shouldn't be the only one picking up on it. And while we're on the subject, what exactly is Kyle's motivation for still being on this show? Sure, the paycheck must be nice, but let's be real, she's loaded. Her daughters are set for life, she has no real, close friendships left in this group, and she refuses to share anything truly personal. She's just there, floating through the season like an NPC with a diamond. If only the producers would actually roll the footage. And let's not forget, Garcelle would have a stronger point if she weren't guilty of doing the same thing to Sutton. Now, she just looks petty. Why should Sutton be forced to join her in badgering Kyle about her sexuality again? That was last season's drama. Time to move on. Also, do we not remember how outraged everyone was when the Fox Force 5 did the same thing to Denise? Two wrongs don't make a right, but apparently, in this group, hypocrisy is just another day at the office. All right, let me ask the Sutton stands to explain themselves, because I'm genuinely curious. I don't mean this in a mean-spirited way, I just want to understand. So many people defend her, and every time I see it, I wonder why. It's the same thing over and over again. She'll bring up her divorce when another housewife is doing the same thing, cough Kyle, Dorit. Then she'll snap at them for it. Classic Sutton move. She screams at people, but then makes these big, wide-eyed, I can't believe you said that faces when they respond. Like, do we all forget the Diane situation? Sutton made fun of her physical condition, and now Diane's the one who looks fake in Sutton's eyes? Yeah, makes sense. I'm not a fan of the other women, but I just don't get how Sutton is somehow the victim here. She's the one always starting things. The rest of the FF5. Oh, you didn't know they were a group. Let's be real, they basically talk about nothing else but Sutton every season because their own leaves are so painfully boring. So, let's turn this into a Sutton bashing show. Now, Dorit. She's been throwing shots at Sutton for years, calling her a drunk. So, when Sutton finally snaps, it's suddenly a problem. Please. Sutton made a totally valid comment about Dorit being broke. I mean, the woman's wearing Chanel while somehow not affording her lifestyle. But of course, the room loses it like she committed a crime. And don't even get me started on the apology. Sutton says sorry, and yet Dorit's rude in response. Erika piles on for stuff that happened years ago. Sutton can't win. Here's the kicker. Sutton's apology is apparently fake, but if she doesn't apologize, she's cold-hearted. It's like they've set her up to fail no matter what she does. Also, why has no one demanded an apology from Dorit for calling Sutton a drunk for who knows how long? That's low. Meanwhile, Erika, who really has no reason to jump into this, takes every opportunity to make things worse. She apologized to Sutton only to turn around at the reunion and say she played her. What? How is that even allowed? Let's talk about asking tough questions. Sutton's not wrong for grilling Erika about stolen money. She's not wrong for asking the open and honest one about her marriage. If these women want to keep their paycheck, they better start spilling or get off the show. But of course, they villainize the person who's actually asking the hard questions. I'm not even a Sutton stan, but let's be real, she's way more entertaining than Kyle or Dorit. The truth is, all these women are terrible to each other. Well, except Garcelle. She stays out of the drama and plays the Greek chorus role. None of them are actual friends outside of the show. Sure, Sutton's chaotic, petty, and at times completely rude. but she says the stuff no one else will, and she hits on things that actually matter, like the rumors about Mauricio's infidelity, Erika's BS, and Dorit's questionable finances. For years, the FF5 got away with bullying the others and ignoring the stuff they didn't want to discuss. Sutton shook that up, and honestly, the show came alive because of it. I wouldn't want to hang out with her, but as a viewer, yes, please. Now, I'm not saying Sutton's a victim. She's no saint. But let's be real, she doesn't go lower than anyone else. Dorit's constant jabs about Sutton's drinking are low. She knows exactly how to get under her skin, especially with the history with Sutton's dad. And Kyle. She's been the biggest bully on the show for ages. That entire drama with Sutton was mutual warfare. As for Dorit, yeah, she definitely fired the first shot, and Sutton just can't let it go. I'll say it again, Sutton's not perfect. She says some shady things. But guess what? So does everyone else. What I don't like is how the FF5 gangs up on her and Garcelle. It's gross. Dorit has never been held accountable for calling Sutton a drunk while hiding her husband's alcoholism. Oh, and don't even mention Kyle's drinking. We all know about that. Erika's the biggest hypocrite of them all, yet no one calls her out. And speaking of Erika, no one's mentioned Marco yet. Maybe next season they should. Honestly, I'm tired of the hypocrisy. Kyle's thin-skinned, and she hides everything about her life. These women need to stop pretending like they're besties and start earning their paychecks. Sutton and Garcelle are the only ones actually moving the storyline. The way they've been picking on Sutton for so long is just gross. I'll never forget the way Erika cackled when Diana called her out. Sutton was right to call out Erika on the stolen money. Erika funded her failed music career with stolen funds, and she doesn't care. Sutton's one of the only ones who had the guts to call her out. I said this in another post, but it fits here too. I like Sutton not because I hate the others, but because I feel like she's one of the few who isn't pretending. Sure, she's flawed, and yes, she has some unresolved issues, but at least she's authentic about it. The other women, I get a performance from them every time. Sutton may not have it all together, but she's honest about it, and that's rare on this show. At the end of the day, the best people to watch are the ones who aren't all good or all bad. They're complex, and I appreciate that. I think Sutton's like that. She's chaotic, she messes up, but she's real in a way no one else on the show is. And as a viewer, I find that compelling. Oh, Kathy Hilton and her tragic injured ankle, what a performance. Remember when the model at Sutton's fashion show had to tap Kathy to get her to move out of the way on the runway? Miraculously, the limp she'd been dragging around disappeared the second she got seated. How convenient. And let's talk about how unfazed she was about her injured ankle, laughing it off like she's some kind of clueless, lovable mess. Yeah, totally believable. Fake. Let's be real, the whole thing was a setup. Kathy isn't clueless, she's playing us all. Her little stunt with Dorit was just to get under Sutton's skin. I mean, Kathy was limping like I did when I was trying to escape PE class in 3rd grade. Classic. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This whole clueless act is just a rebranding campaign. Kathy's trying to convince everyone she's this quirky, lovable eccentric when, in reality, she's more calculated than she lets on. Honestly, I'd rather Kathy stop pretending and just embrace her inner, cold-hearted witch. Imagine how much more entertaining that would be. Sure, Kyle would probably be a mess, sobbing her way through the whole season, but still, it would be way more fun. Kathy, please, just drop the act and show us that icy, vindictive side. That's the real you, and it's the one we want to see. Oh, and Erika being mad at her mom instead of Kathy. Weird. Just weird. Let me start by saying, for the record, I'm not a Sutton defender. Let's get that clear. But if we're talking about hypocrisy, the subreddits have been spot on for years. Honestly, I used to think Sutton was just socially awkward. But now, I'm realizing there's a lot more going on here. She's not great, but let's not pretend she's worse than the other ladies on this cast. I mean, seriously, after last night's episode, it's hard not to feel like they were ganging up on her. Here's the thing. There was already a whole conversation about Sutton's apologies and her chaotic dinner behavior. So why did they need to drag it out again on the boat? Like, how many times do we need to rehash the same topic in less than 24 hours? Not that the conversation wasn't valid, but come on, it's overkill. Especially when it's coming from the two people who already can't stand her. Dorit literally had to be told to listen to Sutton's apology the night before. Spoiler, she didn't. And Erika. Well, she's never been Team Sutton either, so this whole thing was basically just rinse and repeat. But let's be real, Sutton doesn't exactly handle being cornered well. So why do they keep using the same method every time? Are we actually trying to help her change? Or are we just trying to tear her down again and again? If it's the latter, fine, let's be honest about it. Don't act like you're coming at her with good intentions. Sure, Sutton does that weird thing with her eyes when she gets upset. And yeah, she loses it a little bit. But honestly, who wouldn't after being attacked nonstop? There's some serious anger under that surface. Though, I can't say it's any worse than the other ladies' outbursts. Remember when Erika went off? Or when Dorit flipped out on Sutton on the bus? Or Kyle crying and running off every time the heat gets turned up? It's all the same tired drama. Can't we just have one peaceful boat trip for once? Now, I'll admit, Sutton doesn't exactly have the best emotional control during conflict. She's got raw emotional wounds and a history of trauma that's clearly impacting her reactions. She panics and lashes out in the moment, which doesn't exactly help. But honestly, I'm still pushing for a Sutton goes to therapy storyline. I mean, let's watch her unpack her feelings, gain some self-love, and learn a few new tools for interacting with these ladies. Wouldn't that be something? I absolutely agree with everything you said. I'm not saying Sutton is perfect, but she definitely needs some help here. She takes everything personally, and it seems like her past trauma is constantly bubbling up. She just hasn't figured out how to cope yet. And let's not forget, these women love digging up old shit. I mean, how many times can we resolve a conflict one night, only to drag it back up the next day, or 5 years later? It's like they're stuck in a time loop of emotional recycling. This is what happens when they force friendships for the sake of the show. They don't just say, "I'm not going to be friends with someone who treats me like that." Instead, they pretend to accept the apology and move on, until it's even slightly relevant again, and they bring it up like it's fresh gossip. I'm with you. Sutton is definitely driven by her emotions. Her lack of control over them makes for great TV, but let's be honest, it also makes her a pain to deal with. I completely empathized with her on that Augusta trip. I've had a similar relationship with my mom for most of my life. Sutton really needs to unpack her relationship with her mom, her dad's depression/suicide, and everything that came after her parents' divorce. I was honestly frustrated for her when everyone kept questioning her apology. The constant bashing was just too much. I mean, let's talk about the other ladies. Erika potentially benefiting from her husband's crime, Dorit benefiting from her husband's financial mess, Kyle throwing ex-best friends under the bus to climb the housewife ladder. But no, let's focus on Sutton's awkwardness, because that's clearly the biggest issue here, right? I do have to give props to Boz, though, for at least trying to stand up for Sutton when Dorit came for her. At least someone's got her back. Has anyone else noticed how the show loves to hit us with flashbacks to literally minutes ago? We'll watch a scene, the screen goes black for an ad break, and then BAM, right back to the exact moment we just saw, but now in slow motion, as if our brains have somehow already forgotten what happened 10 minutes ago. Don't get me wrong, I love a good flashback to past seasons, especially when they're pulling out receipts or giving us some backstory. But these, did you forget already? Flashbacks are just getting ridiculous. Between the endless previews, the flashbacks, and the repetitive reruns after every ad, It honestly feels like we're watching the same scene 6 times in one episode. What's going on here? Do they think we're all collectively losing our memory? Or do they assume everyone's watching with one eye while the other's glued to their phones? And can we talk about how every meal scene now requires us to hear what everyone's ordering before the actual food comes out? It's like we can't be trusted to understand what's happening unless we know everyone's appetizer choices. Does this bother anyone else, or is it just me? Oh, and here's the saddest response. It's all to stretch the episode for more ad breaks. Because, of course, that's what it's about. Honestly, the editing feels off. We're stuck with too many shots of ladies stepping out of cars, restaurant setups, and endless zoom in, zoom out, look at the sparkle moments. It's getting pretty ridiculous. Help us, LVP, you're our only hope. Look, I get it, Lisa Vanderpump is so over coming back to Housewives, especially with Kyle still hanging around. But honestly, after watching this season, it's clear that we need our favorite transcontinental vixen back holding that diamond again. The desperation for her presence has never been more glaring. I mean, watching Sutton and Dorit practically beg for Kyle's attention while she gives them absolutely nothing is just painful. The whole thing is a complete snooze fest. Adding new housewives isn't going to change this dynamic. What we need is the housewife, the one who can stir the pot like no one else and make everyone's loyalty come into question, all while acting like she couldn't care less about the pecking order. And let's be real, Lisa is the only one who can do that. She reminded everyone that Kyle is no more important than Sutton or Dorit in their pathetic efforts to win over the cool kids. Lisa's presence would instantly highlight the pettiness of these women. Like, she would have called Sutton out in a second for trying to drop her wealth because, let's face it, that was just tacky. Sutton would have never dared to do that in front of Lisa. She knows Lisa exudes everything Beverly Hills should be, and the show desperately needs that energy. Right now, having to pretend Kyle holds any real power over this group, cut to Kyle sobbing alone in her mansion, probably is draining the fun out of the show. I'm honestly starting to question the reality of this whole thing. Write the lady her check, bravo. But here's the thing, I don't actually want Lisa back. She's happy, thriving without the show, and let's be honest, these women don't deserve her. Plus, at this point, she wouldn't even fit in anymore. That said, it would have been glorious to see Lisa step in and call out Erika and Dorit for accusing Sutton of kicking people when they're down, especially considering those two had zero qualms about doing that to her during Puppygate. They have no moral high ground here. But hey, we all know Lisa likes to avoid direct confrontation, so who knows if she would have actually gone there. And one more thing. I sort of get why the others want Lisa's approval. She's magnetic, has a commanding presence, and a personality that dominates. But what I really can't wrap my head around is why these ladies are so obsessed with getting Kyle's approval. Seriously, is it just to secure their spot on the show? Because that's the only logical reason I can come up with. You're absolutely right. LVP has more class in her pinky toe than these women have in their entire bodies.